Mark Levin here. The post-election economy could be a minefield of inflation, massive debt, and currency instability. That's why I count on gold for my financial protection. When it comes to gold, I only trust Advantage Gold. They're one of the top gold companies in America, and that's who I turn to for my own investments. Call them now, 800-900-8000, for a free gold investment kit, and see if you qualify for $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Don't wait and see if post-election chaos destroys your savings. Act preemptively. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
number 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. I have compiled so much here, I don't think we're going to get to all of it unless we have 5 hours, maybe 10. I'm going to start with this, and there's a lot more to go, so stick with us. New York Post: Iranian murder for hire plot against President Trump revealed as 2 New Yorkers also busted and planned to kill journalists. Now, let's stop right here. Isn't it enough to take out that bastard regime? This constant threat now against an elected president of the United States? I'm serious, folks. Maybe I'm just getting too old. I remember a day when you did something like that, we would take out these people. I'm serious. Instead, our government subsidizes them. Iran instructed one of its agents running a New York City-based criminal network to stalk and assassinate former President Donald Trump in the 2024 election's final weeks, telling him that, quote, money is not an issue, the feds revealed today. An unnamed official in Iran's notorious Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps tasked 51 during September to, quote, focus on surveilling and ultimately assassinating Trump, according to a bombshell criminal complaint unsealed today by Manhattan federal prosecutors. The complaint charges Shakiri, who remains at large, he's still at large, with murder for hire, as well as 2 New York City men in separate assassination plots targeting a prominent Brooklyn journalist who's been a thorn in the side of the Tehran regime and a pair of unidentified Jewish business people. When Shakiri told his mysterious handler that Trump plot would cost a huge amount of money, the Iranian official hinted at other Tehran-backed attempts to murder the former president, the complaint states. Shouldn't we take this regime out? It's not hard. Shouldn't we at least allow the Israelis to do it? Shouldn't we stop funding them? Harris, Biden, the other reprobates? In a phone conversation with an FBI agent, Shakiri, who did time in U.S. prisons for robbery, said the Iranian official told him October 7 to have a plan in place to kill Trump within 7 days, quote unquote. If Shakiri did not meet his deadline, the contact allegedly said the hit on Trump would be postponed until after the November 5 election because Tehran officials believed that the Republican nominee would lose, and after it would be easier to assassinate him, quote unquote. Imagine being Donald Trump living with this over your head. The charges were unsealed 3 days after Trump defeated Harris to become the 47th president-elect. It's the latest example of what officials have described as ongoing efforts by Iran to target Trump and other current and former government officials on U.S. soil. This is war. Even the isolationists, even the protectionists, even the moronists, they should know that this is war. They're threatening Donald Trump again. The complaint, which refers to the president-elect as victim 4, also charges Brooklyn native Carlisle Rivera, 49, and Staten Islander Jonathan Holt, 36, with murder for hire, conspiracy to commit murder for hire, and money laundering conspiracy. Rivera and Lodeholt were ordered held pending trial. Shakiri, who's believed to be in Iran and out of the reach of the United States, is also charged with conspiring to violate U.S. sanctions against Iran and so forth. He spoke with FBI agents by phone 5 times before late September and as recently as Thursday in hopes of obtaining a sentence reduction for an unnamed person in the U.S. prison system. Now, the complaint details that Shakiri was born in Afghanistan and emigrated to the U.S. as a child, but was deported in 2008 after serving a 14-year prison sentence for robbery. During his time behind bars, Shakiri met Rivera and Lodeholt, later recruiting them to be hitmen, according to the complaint. Now, the Fed say Shakiri initially tasked his cohorts with killing Iranian-American activist and journalist Masha Alinejad. We've seen her on Fox. She's a brilliant and courageous lady. An outspoken critic of the Tehran regime has been targeted for assassination in the past by Iran. So here they are. They want to take out Trump, take out Pompeo, take out O'Brien, take out Bolton, take out this lady. And we sit here, giving them money and everything? Rivera and Lodeholt pursued Alinejad for 9 months, surveilling her Brooklyn home. This is the journalist, and planning to watch one of her talks at Fairfield University in Connecticut. One point, Rivera allegedly complained to Shakiri, "This BH is hard to catch, bro." Iran offered Shakiri $1.5 million to kill her, and in turn, he promised Rivera and Lodeholt $100,000 to carry out the dastardly deed, and it goes on. Shakiri also told the FBI he had been instructed by Iran to plot a mass shooting targeting Israeli tourists in Sri Lanka, which prompted the U.S. and Israel governments to issue a travel warning for the island nation on October 23. Actors directed by the government of Iran continue to target our citizens, including President-elect Trump, on U.S. soil and abroad. Manhattan U.S. Attorney Damian Williams said in a statement, "This has to stop. The only way it stops is if we take them out before they take us out." I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. They keep threatening the sitting president, or soon-to-be sitting president of the United States, wanted to interfere with our election in a most diabolical and murderous way. And then there's this. You know what's amazing about what I'm about to discuss with you? What's amazing about this is how few leaders in our country have spoken out about this. What are you talking about? I'm talking about Amsterdam. Do you know what happened in Amsterdam? I'll tell you what happened in Amsterdam. You had the Israeli soccer team playing the team in Amsterdam. And that Israeli soccer team, thousands of fans from Israel and all over the world, Jewish fans, came to watch them. They lost 5-0. Of course, that's not the story. The story is that thousands of free Palestine, I have to assume Arabs, Muslims, jihadists, on the 86th anniversary of Kristallnacht, laid in wait to attack them, brutalize them, and even kill them. So you literally had citizens from Israel and other parts of the world who came to watch this soccer game, running for their lives, beaten viciously in the streets. The most latest intelligence shows that this was in the works, this plan, for several days before the soccer game. The Palestinian spokesidiots, whomever they are, they were saying, no, they were provoked because, the Jews were tearing down Palestinian flags and burning them. Is that what Jews do? Where have they done that? It's the opposite. And so, First, the police in Amsterdam were overrun. There weren't enough of them. Then they brought in reinforcements. The Prime Minister of Israel, great man that he is, he ordered the IDF and the Mossad, in coordination with the Dutch government, to go to that part of the world and to rescue their people and bring them home. And that's what they did, to a great extent. And the first evacuated Israelis who landed in Israel from Amsterdam, they told of the horror, how they were running for their lives, running into alleys, how others were beaten within an inch of their lives, how it was completely set up, that different parts of the roads and the alleys that they were chased into and so forth, it was all a plot and all planned. Now, this is horrible. The Dutch king condemned the anti-Semitic attack on Israel, the Israeli soccer fans. The Dutch king said, effectively, we let you down during World War II, and we've let you down again. Let me just say this. I've said it before, and I've come under attack for it. The backbenchers will repeat it when they think the coast is clear, but I don't really care. There has been a revolution by immigration all over the world. All over the world. There was a Muslim crusade that was followed by, you've heard, the Christian crusades. Lots of condemnation of the Christian crusades. But that Christian crusade at least began with the idea that they needed to push back against the Muslim crusade. Well, let me tell you a little secret, which isn't a secret to the jihadists and the Islamists. But it's not allowed to pass your lips in the Western world, and certainly not in the United States, and certainly not behind this microphone. You're witnessing a second Muslim crusade. And it is this mass migration into Western Europe. It's this mass migration into the United States, into the Western world. It is something that is being promoted by the jihadis and the Islamists. They've promoted it in writing. I have the sources myself. And so you're now seeing where the head rabbi in France said there won't be a Jew left in France in 10 years. They're all going to have to leave, and urged them to leave. Now you can see in Amsterdam what took place there. Horrendous. Horrendous. You see what's happening in London, England. You see what's happening in New York. It's exactly what it is, a second Muslim crusade. But this one is funded by the jihadis and the Islamists and their states. Qatar, among others. Iran, even their front groups, actually Hamas. That's what's going on in Europe. That's what's going on in the United States. And nobody will tell you this but me, this second Muslim crusade, led by jihadists and Islamists. And as I say, you see them in the streets. There have been organizations that have done a great job, like Heritage and others, like the George Washington University, that studies terrorism and terrorist funding, and others that have focused on the fact that this money's coming into our country, funding students. What is it? Students for in Palestine, yes. And all these other front groups. And I'll have more to report on that probably next week in a big way. Students for Justice in Palestine, of course, excuse me. Got the word justice. I'm stunned at the lack of outspokenness against what's taken place here in Amsterdam. I'm stunned at it. The lack of outspokenness by political leaders of both parties. It's appalling. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
History shows that post-election periods can bring economic turmoil. It's about bracing for the economic fallout that could follow. But this time, with our national debt skyrocketing, global tensions rising, and God knows what else, we could be facing unprecedented risks. Economic dislocation, runaway stagflation, even worse. And of course, undermining the value of the currency. That's the big concern. Your financial security. The answer is diversity. Diversity with what? In my view, gold. Gold has been said to be a reliable wealth shield for thousands of years through some of the worst economic storms. And for my gold investments, I trust Advantage Gold. I recommend them to anyone serious about helping to protect their own wealth. Call them right now. 800-900-8000. Get a free gold investment kit to see how you can get started with gold. You can even qualify for up to $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Call them now. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. Now, trust me, you'll be happy you did. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. Now, this attack on the Israeli Jews in Amsterdam was apparently, one report says, planned weeks ago, so I don't know why the Fox reporter says that it may have been provoked by the pulling down of a Palestinian flag, which is the propaganda that the Palestinians are putting out. Now, this was planned. It was plotted weeks ago. They had strategic locations in the area around the stadium covered, and there were thousands of people that turned out to attack the fans. We're going to have Ambassador to the United States from Israel, Danny Danon, on the program in just a few minutes to discuss this. And also, there were 2 Jewish students who were violently beaten at DePaul University in Lincoln Park. They have some pictures that they're putting out for people to take a look at. So it's open season. And I'm hoping with the election of President Trump and his team that this will get more focused attention. And I got to believe it will. But there haven't been enough statements put out by leaders in our country about what's taking place here. And this has to stop, too. The Jews are always the canary in the coal mine, always. Followed by Christians and others. That is a free society that collapses. That collapses. This people say, well, how did the Third Reich happen? How did these things happen in the 1930s? Where the hell was everybody? It's a good question, isn't it? But we know the answer. The answer is right in front of your eyes. Good people say nothing. They figure nothing will ever happen to them. It's just the Jews. What are you worried about? And there's too much of this going on here. And certainly going on in Europe, which of course is the home of what took place, the Holocaust and the Third Reich. So this needs to be discussed by Jew and Gentile alike because of the consequences for a free society. Absolutely does. And I'm certainly not going to be silenced about it. So no, this was not provoked by somebody taking down a Palestinian flag. I would tell our reporter friend, I don't know him, from Fox in Tel Aviv, which is as close to Amsterdam, I guess, as I am. It's closer, but it's really not there, so it doesn't matter. And just because the Palestinians put out a statement, or the Hamas puts out a statement, or the PA puts out a statement, or Iran puts out a statement, it's not necessary to regurgitate it. It's just not. There's a lot more here we're going to discuss after our guest, Danny Danon, the ambassador. We're going to have some other guests here. What did I do with it, Mr. Producer? We're going to have Rick Scott on the program shortly. There's a battle for the leadership of the Senate Republicans. I'm stunned that Josh Hawley, who just got reelected in Missouri as a conservative, has endorsed the least conservative candidate running for leader, Cornyn. He just endorsed Cornyn right after his election. And Gene Hamilton, one of the big muckety-mucks over there at America First Legal, and how they uncovered and stopped amnesty that was going to be given to 500,000 to 1 million illegal aliens in the next few days until they stopped it miraculously yesterday. We've got lots. I'll be back. Folks, any election can send shockwaves through our financial system, but these post-election stakes could be higher than ever. Reckless spending, mounting debt, these radical left policies, they've set the stage for a potential disaster. We could see rapid stagflation, market dislocation, even worse, and that will undermine the value of our currency. That's why I've always relied on gold for protection as part of my diversification. It's been said to be a timeless safeguard against economic chaos, and in these uncertain times, it's more crucial than ever. So when it comes to gold, I trust one company, Advantage Gold. They're one of the top gold companies in America, and they're who I turn to for my own investments. Call them now, 800-900-8000. Get your free gold investment kit to see how gold can help protect you from post-election chaos. And when you do, you might even qualify for $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Don't wait until it's too late. 800-900-8000. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional.
Mark Levin, the research arm of conservative media. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
We have our friend Ambassador Danny Danon from the State of Israel. Ambassador, how are you this evening, sir?
Thank you, Mark, for having me again. Good evening.
It's always an honor, always a pleasure. Good evening. But that said, we saw another Kristallnacht take place in Amsterdam. It was a horrific sight. That the Jewish Israelis who went to the football game there in Amsterdam, they were trapped, they were set up by literally thousands of anti-Semites. What can you tell us about this?
Well, we are monitoring the situation. We opened an emergency situation room, and we are actually helping the Israelis who are in Amsterdam to come back to Israel. But, you described it very accurately. It was a horrible pogrom in Europe in 2024 when Jews were actually chased in the streets of Amsterdam. Some of them were actually thrown into the canals, stabbing, beating, and it was all orchestrated. That when you ask yourself why it happened, it's part of the incitement campaign against Israel. All the lies that people are spreading against us, they blame us for genocide, starvation, all of those lies that create the atmosphere of hate. But we also have to say a word about the authorities in the Dutch that they were not effective. It's unacceptable that for hours people were calling to the police, no one showed up, and that's why we saw those horrible sights last night.
Now, the Prime Minister, your government, has sent in soldiers and others in coordination with the Dutch government to get the Israeli citizens out of there, right?
Yes, we were planning to send some aircraft of the military, but we realized that we have enough commercial planes, so now everybody is coming home with the commercial flights. We still have people who are wounded, who were stabbed, that are still in hospital. We hope that they will recover soon and come back. But, it's not only the Dutch. What we're seeing now in Europe, you see radical Muslims, and we have to say it, Mark, not to hide it, radical Muslims who are taking over the streets. And the authorities have like a weird mentality. They're trying to appease them. Let me give you an example. In Belgium, they had a legislation that you are not allowed to arrest anyone after 10 p.m. So imagine what those criminals did. They were plotting and attacking synagogues and Jews after 10 p.m. So just now they started to realize that they have to change that ridiculous legislation. So I think the authorities have to wake up because today it's attacks against Jews. Tomorrow it will be attacks against everyone over there.
Israel's a tiny country. You got 6-7 million Jews in that country, about half the Jews in the world. You're surrounded by enemies. The Western world is loaded with enemies against the state of Israel. The capitals, these governments, many of them talking about boycotting Israel, cutting off arms to Israel. And all you're doing is trying to survive. You're fighting the terrorists who attack you first and continue to attack you. Israel's not allowed to win, and the Jewish people are not allowed to survive. That seems to be the bottom line, doesn't it?
Well, we realize that we have to win. We have no other choice. It's not like if we lose the war, we're going to go somewhere else. We have no other place. That's why we are determined. That's why we're actually winning the war. And like you mentioned, we are fighting 7 fronts now. Tiny military, tiny country, fighting Iran, fighting Hezbollah, fighting the Houthis from Yemen, militias from Iraq in Syria. and we Hamas in Gaza. But we are determined to win because we don't have any other choice. But it's hard. It has been a very difficult year. And still, 400 days after the massacre of October 7th, we still have 101 hostages. This week I brought to the UN Mia Shem. She was in captivity for 50 days, and she shared with the UN ambassadors her story about what she had to suffer during the tunnels of Hamas. Unfortunately, they didn't care much. They care more about UNRWA and other issues. They don't care about suffering of Jews in the UN. But we are determined to continue until we bring back all of them, all of the hostages.
The country Qatar announced today, after the election of President Trump, that they're going to send the billionaire leaders of Hamas out of their country. Timing is very interesting. But Qatar could direct Hamas, which it really is the main funder in support of Hamas, and it lies to the Western world, and buys all these lobbyists in the United States. It runs all these sporting events to try and mainstream itself in the whole world, but it is a terrorist regime that funds terrorism. Qatar could direct Hamas to release those hostages, including the American hostages, don't you think?
Well, first, I wouldn't buy it, so fast. Let's wait and see where those terrorists will be in a week's time. I think they are threatening them that they will expel them in order to apply pressure on them because they want to be involved in the negotiations. But I don't think it will happen so soon. And as you mentioned, they're playing a double game. For years they wonder why they keep funding Hamas, and at the same time they give money to construction of Gaza. What is the logic behind it? To sponsor Hamas and reconstruct Gaza. Anyone knows that it will lead to another war against Israel. So I think they have to choose. They have to choose if they want to belong to the Western world or they want to belong to the axis of evil, which is led by Iran. As of now, they are in the middle.
Mm-hmm. And this war that's going on all around you, really launched by Iran through its surrogates, funded by, in part, quite frankly, the United States of America, directly and indirectly, and so forth and so on. I know Israel's ready for whatever may come. Do you think Iran's attitude is going to change a little bit with the change of administrations, or it's wait and see? I don't want to put you on the spot. I'm just asking.
No, I don't think, look what we saw today that was revealed, that they actually tried to assassinate President Trump before the election. So, they tried to do the same in Israel, using their proxies and fund chaos. And I think that the new administration will have to put them in the right position and should cripple the economy of Tehran. Today they spend $7 billion a year on their proxies promoting chaos all over the world. So I think if there will be real sanctions, they will have less money to spend on terrorism, and I'm sure that President Trump will lead into that direction.
Yeah, because those sanctions were his. And those sanctions against the Palestinian terrorists, whether they be in parts of Jerusalem or Judea and Samaria or elsewhere, and the sanctions against UNRWA and the Teller Force Act and all these things are things that President Trump did, and that had been reversed. So I've got to believe, or at least I think, that he is going to reinstate these things, and especially, as you just pointed out, Iran's trying to murder him. And they've been trying to murder him. I can't believe he's going to take that sitting down. What do you think?
Well, I'm sure you cannot ignore it. We saw that method they used here in the U.S., paying criminals to try to target the president. They did the same in Israel with Prime Minister Netanyahu.
Yeah.
We found their activities also paying criminals online in order to attack the Prime Minister. So I think today we should realize with whom we are dealing. And we are strong. We have to understand that. They are threatening all day long, and they make a lot of noise. But we have the strength, we have the determination, and we can defeat them. And I'm sure it will happen.
I believe, Mr. Ambassador, honest to God, if you folks were free to take out their oil supplies, to take out their nuke sites, and to take out the center of that government, it would fold. The people there do not like that government. It is a police state. I'd say 70, 80% of them would like nothing more than to see it disappear. Isn't that your sense that the people of Iran, these Persian people, these good people, they want nothing to do with this government?
Absolutely. We remember the days, before the revolution, that you had a direct flight from Tel Aviv to Tehran. We supported their economy. We shared a lot of the same ideas, and we appreciated the Iranian people. But since the revolution, they are being held by this radical regime. All the wealth is going to support terrorism and building the IRGC. They spend billions on UAVs, and they're sending them now to Russia to attack Ukraine. And I think the Iranians are fed up. They cannot speak up, they cannot demonstrate, but I'm sure they are fed up.
Finally, because I know you need to go, talking to Ambassador Danny Danon, a real friend of the United States and me and my family as well. Mr. Ambassador, what is it like sitting in an organization where Israel is targeted day in and day out by its members, or so many of them? What is it like sitting there and surrounded by so many anti-Semitic regimes and regimes that would like nothing more than to see the destruction of Israel? It can't be a pleasant day every day.
No, it's not pleasant, but Mark, I chose to come again to the same position. I'm the first Israeli ever to serve twice in this position at the UN, because after October 7th, I realized that we have to stand up, we have to speak up, and that's exactly what I'm doing. And I'm determined. I'm determined to stand up every day, even though I know sometimes that, they will vote against us, but at least they will hear the truth. At least we will show them, the facts. And also it's important for our allies, like the United States and other democracies, that they will realize they cannot sit idly by. They should lead and they should be active. And I believe that hopefully one day we'll be able to reform this institution, the United Nations.
Just so you know, I see it's reporting. I mean, I don't know the accuracy. It is, after all, the media. But they are reporting that President Trump's includes to significantly increase sanctions against Iran. I think the biggest mistake they make, quite frankly, is to try and assassinate him, because I think he's pretty damn pissed off, to be perfectly honest with you, Mr. Ambassador. Well, Mr. Ambassador, have a great Shabbat. We love you on this program. You're a dear friend of the country.
Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you.
You take care of yourself. All right.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Good man. Really good man. Very nice man, by the way. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
History shows that post-election periods can bring economic turmoil. It's about bracing for the economic fallout that could follow. But this time, with our national debt skyrocketing, global tensions rising, and God knows what else, we could be facing unprecedented risks. Economic dislocation, runaway stagflation, even worse. And, of course, undermining the value of the currency. That's the big concern. Your financial security. The answer is diversity. Diversity with what? In my view, gold. Gold has been said to be a reliable wealth shield for thousands of years through some of the worst economic storms. And for my gold investments, I trust Advantage Gold. I recommend them to anyone serious about helping to protect their own wealth. Call them right now. 800-900-8000. Get a free gold investment kit to see how you can get started with gold. You can even qualify for up to $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Call them now. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. Now, trust me, you'll be happy you did. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. Harry Enton is this guy we've played over the last few months at CNN, the data reporter. He's pretty good, but like all the other experts, it's too close to call when Trump had a landslide. Now, I've already discussed this at length, how ridiculous these pollsters and experts are, but I want you to listen to this. Again, Harry Enton on CNN, their data reporter. Cut one, go.
The breadth of the improvement that Donald Trump had, holy Toledo. All right, Trump gained ground in 49 states and the District of Columbia compared to 2020. I went back through the record books. When was the last time a party gained in so many different places? You have to go all the way back to 1992 when Bill Clinton improved upon Michael Dukakis's performance in 49 states, plus the District of Columbia. The bottom line is, no matter where you looked on the map, Kate Baldwin, no matter where you looked, Donald Trump was improving on where he did 4 years ago, except for Washington State. It is no wonder that at this particular point, he looks like he's going to be the first Republican to win the popular vote since George W. Bush back in 2004.
And to pull that off, he gained ground with groups that Republicans do not generally count as part of their winning coalition, or really at all. How much ground did he gain?
Yeah, holy Toledo. It's just like, oh my goodness gracious. These are the types of groups that you would never have thought that Donald Trump would have gained so much support among 8 years ago when he first won against Hillary Clinton. Trump's was the best GOP showing among 18 to 29-year-olds in 20 years. You have to go all the way back to 2004. How about among black voters? It was the best performance for a Republican candidate for president in 48 years since Gerald Ford back in 1976. And among Hispanic voters, the exit polls only go back since 1972. But Donald Trump's performance on Tuesday was the best for a Republican presidential candidate in exit poll history. He literally goes all the way back through history and breaks history. This is what we're talking about, Kate Baldwin. Groups that you never thought that Donald Trump would do well among, even for a Republican candidate, that is what he did. If the 2016 election was about Donald Trump breaking through with white working class voters, this election was about breaking through and going to that Democratic coalition and tearing it apart.
And it wasn't just what he did for his own support. It trickled down to helping the Senate and helping in the House.
Yeah. So, a lot of talk this morning and this week is, the GOP is going to have a Senate majority. We don't know if the Republicans are going to have a House majority, but we think that that's the most likely to be the case. But I want you to look at the 2024 House GOP national vote showing. So this is the House popular vote. Currently, the GOP is ahead by 5 points. I expect that to shrink a little bit as some of the California results come in. But if let's just say he wins, the House GOP wins by more than 2.6 points, it will be the best House GOP showing in a presidential year in the House popular vote since 1928. If there's any viewer out there who is that old, God bless you. But the bottom line is it was probably the best House GOP national vote showing during most of our viewers' lifetimes in a presidential year.
Got that? Slam in the House in terms of the overall vote. Took back really a significant majority as things go in the United States Senate. Electoral College over 300. Wins the popular vote. In every county in America bar one, there was significant improvement. An improvement in all races, both genders, all religions, all backgrounds, young people, women. Notice also, all we heard about for 3.5 months, Mr. Producer, was abortion, right? It was not the driving issue. 11% of those who voted, it was based on abortion. The vast majority, the economy, and immigration. We've got lots more. I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
All I know is it's going to be a great Thanksgiving, isn't it, Mr. Producer? Oh, yeah, you're going into the weekend. Smile there, Patriots, smile. You did it. Mark Levin here. Over at The View, they were having sort of a conniption fit. We have, of course, Karen. That would be Whoopi Goldberg. We have Sonny Houston, whose ancestors notoriously were slave owners. We have a real mix of reprobates over there. And but there was a very good back and forth, if you will, kind of chaotic, over at The View. Well, The View is very dark over there. Let's listen in at least for a little bit. Cut 17, go.
I think that I'd like to reframe the conversation. I think Bernie Sanders is wrong. I think the more relevant question actually is what is wrong with America?
All right, so stop. So this is Sonny Houston, you see. The hell's wrong with all you people? She's got the mind of a totalitarian. See, it's you. Now, let me make it clear. We have a great show on Fox tomorrow, Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern. My opening is a killer. We have Don Jr. and we have Ben Domenech. Two fantastic guests who have fantastic things to say. But I want to say to you what I'm going to say then, in part. The press won't change. The Democrat Party won't change. None of them are going to change. They're all plotting as I speak right now, tonight, on how to destroy Donald Trump, how to destroy his agenda, how to use the law, how to use procedures in Congress, how to use their media brothers and sisters, and the media brothers and sisters, how to use Congress. They're going to ramp it up. They're going to double down, triple down, quadruple down. They're not going to change. They're not gracious. They don't have class. They're not going to roll over in a fetal position. No, they're going to sharpen their teeth. They're going to sharpen their fingernails. That's what they're going to do. This is an evil movement. An evil movement, this counter-revolutionary Marxist jihadist movement. And they don't plan to go anywhere. In fact, they plan to lay political landmines everywhere. Have you heard some of these pathetically stupid governors? Like Newsom, as President Trump calls him in California, or that big fat slob Pritzker in Illinois? Oh, he's a pretty one. Or you go to the governor of Massachusetts, or the jackass who's the governor of New Jersey. You hear these guys, you're going to have to come through me. Oh, that'll be tough. And Hochul there in New York. Complete loser. Oh, they're going to have to come through me. You see what I'm saying? They're not going to change. We have to be ready. I even told the Trump people, you got to be ready. Because these people are going to try and destroy you as much as they've tried to destroy you before. But you have the people behind you. You have the muscle. You now have the control over the executive branch. Go ahead.
What is wrong with our country that the Republican Party would choose as a candidate and support a candidate who is an insurrectionist, who is an election denier, who is someone who was twice impeached, a 34-time convicted felon?
Wow, the clapping seals. I would love to debate this woman, Mr. It's Sunny Houston, right? Would you invite her on the show next week? Just say Mark Levin would like to debate you on his radio program. And I'd say, because you're so brilliant, you're beyond smart. We've never seen anything like you on television. And, of course, Mark is just a lowly conservative talk show host, so you should be able to whip his ass pretty good. So why don't you just come on the show, and we'll have a discussion. Let's try that. Go ahead.
Of alleged sexual misconduct by 26 women found liable for sexual abuse. What is wrong with this country that they would choose a message of divisiveness, of xenophobia, of racism, of misogyny over a message of inclusiveness?
I just want you to see, the reason I'm not interrupting her and addressing each one of these things is because you know the answers. And what's amazing about this is the complete and utter disconnect. These people live in their own cocoons. It's unbelievable. Complete and utter disconnect from the American people. You know, this was a massive mandate. People from all walks of life. She's upset at Latinos because the majority of them voted for Trump. She's upset with blacks because a significant number of black men in particular, but blacks period, voted for Trump. She's furious. And so she's lashing out. What they don't mention is all these union members who voted for Trump and defied their union leaders in most cases. I mean, he has united the country. The coalition of people who have voted for Donald Trump, I don't know that we've ever seen this before, of all backgrounds and races and so forth. And other than the state of Washington, he picked up bigger votes out of 49 states that not only he has ever before, but many Republicans have ever before. It's a remarkable coalition that he pulled together, including Democrat Party base organizations and groups, Republican Party base organizations and groups, independents. It's absolutely remarkable. And he always said, I'm ahead by a lot. I'm ahead by a lot. And all the media kept saying, no, it's close. It's close. You know, that's just Trump. I'm ahead by. No, he was ahead by a lot. By a whole lot. Go ahead.
For the people, by the people, of the people. That's what the problem is. It's the Republican Party.
But can I say something before? We can do the second. The Democrats are the ones. They are the party that cares for the blue collar
exactly.
voter. The Democrats are the ones who put in Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, union protection.
Stop. The Democrats are also the ones that destroyed Social Security and Medicare and want to destroy it further by allowing illegal aliens on. Now, the idea of Social Security did not come from the Democrats. It came from the Germans. It came from Bismarck in the mid-1800s. And FDR didn't just push through Social Security because he was a great guy. There had been proposals for some kind of a pension subsidy for senior citizens. He latched onto it. He came up with his own program. He pushed it through, and it barely covered anybody. The initial Social Security covered a few 100,000 people. That was it. And that's number one. Number two, when it came to Medicare, there were a number of proposals on the table. Once again, Lyndon Johnson grabbed the idea. It was actually, in many respects, a Republican idea. And he built his own Medicare program, and they pushed it through, and they've been destroying it ever since. And they want to give it to illegal aliens who don't even pay into the system. So they should stop patting themselves on the head. Why don't they talk about the real history of the Democrat Party? Slavery, segregation, Jim Crow, lynching, eugenics. They don't mention that. Why don't they mention that FDR refused to sign in 1940 an anti-federal lynching bill? He refused to sign it. Why don't they mention that FDR refused to even meet with the NAACP leadership? Oh, they will never mention that. Or Jesse Owens. Or Joe Louis. Both of whom voted for and supported Republicans as a result of the way FDR treated them. I could go on and on and on, but why should I? Go ahead.
Employment insurance and Obamacare. The Republican Party doesn't give a rat's patootie about
clearly
it.
they didn't convince the voters of
So
yeah.
all I can deduce.
All she talks about is socialist programs or big government programs or programs that people now rely on, entitlement programs and so forth and so on. That's all she talks about. What about liberty? What about economic growth and prosperity? They can't talk about these things. What about limited power so we can live in a free society? What about all those things? And let us also remember it was the Democrat Party that opposed the civil rights movement in the 50s and 60s. It wasn't the Republican Party. It was the Democrat Party that stood in the schoolhouse doors to prevent little black kids from going to school with little white kids. It was the Democrat Party that stood in the doors of colleges and universities to prevent black and white kids from learning in these schools and universities. Why don't they talk about that? And what has the Democrat Party done for the black population, the Latino population, the Asian population today? I mean, they look at these groups, and that's what they see, groups. They don't look at everybody as Americans. What have they done for the American people to improve their lives? They're weak on crime. They're weak on real law and order. The border's wide open. We have international gangs coming into our country, unleashed against our people. We have fentanyl coming into our country. How come they don't mention that? That's another achievement, quote unquote, of the Democrat Party. Anyway, go ahead.
Get through to people. They're not paying attention. That's all.
Yeah,
because their Democrats have always
all right, so
been
now
for the
she says you're too stupid. You're not paying attention. If you paid attention, you'd agree with her. Now, she's got two feathers for a brain in between her ears. That's it. She's an idiot. Same with this Houston, who I want to debate. They said fascism. They said dictator. They talked about how people are going to be rounded up, that they're afraid over there at the View, that they themselves are going to be threatened. After the election, if they don't win, number one, it hasn't happened, and number two, it's never going to happen. They lied to you. They would have supported Joe Biden right into the mental asylum. Go ahead.
I think the message of the Democrats sounded elitist. You don't have value in the society.
They
you don't have a
sounded
college
that way,
degree.
but when you look at the proof, they weren't.
But Joy, it's condescending. It's condescending.
Joy, why don't you ever shut the hell up and let somebody else speak? It's not like you have something smart or profound or wise to say. You're just a big mouth. You see how upset they are, though, America? You're going to have a wonderful weekend. You're going to smile. You're going to kiss your spouse and your kids. Maybe you'll go out to dinner together. You're going to have a fantastic Thanksgiving. You're going to say a prayer at your Thanksgiving table with family, friends around. No question about it. Thank God for what took place on Tuesday. Because if we had lost, there'd be 20 million more illegal aliens for sure that would come in the next 4 years. If we had lost, the Supreme Court and its independence would have been destroyed. If we had lost, Donald Trump would be going to prison. If we had lost, the Electoral College would be destroyed, so the 11 most populous blue states would always pick the president and the vice president. If we had lost, they would have given 2 senators each to Puerto Rico and D.C., meaning the Republicans could never win the Senate. If we had lost, our First Amendment free speech rights would have been severely curtailed. Freedom of association would have been severely curtailed. Freedom of religion would have been severely curtailed. The Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, would be brutally attacked. The Fifth Amendment, your due process and equal protection rights, also covered under the 14th Amendment, would be undermined. There's no question about it. And we can go on and on and on. The courts would be packed with radical leftists like Tanya Chunkin, like Sotomayor, like Pan on the circuit court in Washington, D.C., who are not so much judges, they are radicals in robes. Your whole life would change. Prices would be going up because they're going to use price gouging laws as they put their foot on the throat of the golden goose, demanding that the golden goose, which they're killing, continue to lay golden eggs because they're stupid. They're Marxists and socialists. The price of fuel would keep going up where Donald Trump wants to open our oil fields again and get the pumps pumping. Oh, yeah. And we can go on down the list. This is what the Democrats have done for you. Made so much of what was affordable unaffordable. Made your streets unsafe. Made your schools stupid. Oh, yes, they're just fantastic. Go ahead.
The way that the left speaks to its voters, it really is.
A message of joy and inclusiveness?
No, the message of not being educated, being dumb, and what's wrong with America.
This Sonny Houston is a lapdog for the radical left. Joy Behar is a failed radio host and a low IQ buffoon. This show, The View, just like so many shows, so much of our culture, has been hijacked by the most radical and stupid people on the face of the earth. It was supposed to be a show that had serious debate, substantive debate with people with differing views. That's what Barbara Walters wanted. Instead, we get Karen, a.k.a. Whoopi Goldberg, Sonny Houston, Joy Behar, and the other reprobate. What is that other one? Anna Navarra? She's stupid in 2 languages. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, have you ever thought about what charities and causes you give your hard-earned money to? Pure Talk, my cell phone company, supports veterans. As a veteran-led company, that's their passion project. And that's why Pure Talk has slashed $10 million in veteran debt. That's why they donate tens of thousands of dollars every month to help prevent veteran suicide. That's why they donate $50,000 to Micro Works, providing scholarships to veterans learning the trades after active duty. Now, isn't that a company you can get behind? Time to jump ship from these other 3 guys. There's a better option. Pure Talk gives you the same great coverage, America's most dependable 5G network, for half the cost. And you'll be supporting a company that is helping our vets. It's a win-win. Dial pound 250. Say keyword Mark Levin. You'll be connected to Pure Talk's U.S. call center. That's right. They invest in American jobs to better serve you. And remember, they're half the price of the big 3. Go to puretalk.com/Levin today. That's puretalk.com/LEVIN. Switch to a company that invests in American jobs to better serve you. Again, go to puretalk.com/Levin. You'll get an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk, America's wireless company. You can hear the dripping hate that these leftists in and out of the media have for you, the people, whether you're Democrat or Republican or independent. The dripping hate they have for you. Now they're attacking black people as racists. They're attacking Latinos as racists. It's disgusting. The dripping hate they have for you. This contest was between we the people and this ruling class that doesn't know his ass from a hole in the ground. That's what it was, and that's what it is. And they keep talking down to you, down to you, down to you because you don't agree with them. And until these media corporations, these giant corporatist institutions that own these media platforms, set them straight so they're actually real news organizations, it's going to continue. Comcast is the company that owns NBC and MSNBC. Paramount owns CBS. Disney owns ABC. That's what's going on here. Until you show up at their annual investors meeting, stockholders meeting, and raise holy hell, they're not going to change. They're going to keep putting people on there who call you racists and bigots and misogynists. Now it's not just aimed at white men. It's aimed at white women. It's aimed at black people. It's aimed at Latino people. It's aimed at anybody who doesn't agree with them. It's aimed at union members. You should have done what you're supposed to do. Come here on the Democrat Party plantation. Doesn't matter who you are. We insist You have to vote for us, whether you like it or not. That's pretty much what Obama said. Obama's dead now politically. He's never had long coattails. He had a pretty vibrant election record himself, but he never had long coattails. In 2010, the Tea Party rose up. He lost over 60 members of the House, a bunch of senators. They trot him out, parachute him in. He just shows up. People aren't buying that anymore in any community, period. Michelle Obama, same thing. You show up for one event, all of a sudden it's like you're God's gift. It doesn't work that way. You got to earn the vote. You got to have a record. You got to have policies. These are serious times. People are dealing with a lot of heartache. And when you watch The View and listen to these yentas, or you listen to MSLSD or the Constipated News Network or all the rest of the conga line of the usual corporate media, all you get is a face full of spit. That's it. And Bob Woodward has an idea. Bob Woodward, and I told you last night, the media are the biggest problem we have in this country. They hate the country. They hate you. They're populated with radical Democrat Party operatives. That's what they are. They're dressed up as journalists, but they are what they are. So that's Bob Woodward. Bob Woodward is a grifter. He's been hanging on in Washington, D.C. like a bleeding hemorrhoid. That's what he is. He's a hemorrhotic. Making money off his gossip books, timing him for elections. You know, great reporter, this guy, isn't he? He can barely speak the English language. He's sort of the white male Kamala Harris. But he's got an idea for the media. Get Trump, get Trump, get Trump. And they want you to believe that Trump is the problem. Listen to this a-hole on the Joe Scarborough show. Yes, Joe, butter costs $7. Amazing how you figure that out. He was shocked. What is it, wrapped in gold? Cut 12, go.
You know, he's in for a fight. There's a lot of hand wringing in the Democratic Party now. The Democratic Party needs to come back to life. The news media is going to be...
So is this guy a reporter? He's a hack for the Democrat Party. Look, I'm not a reporter. I'm not a journalist. Don't ever accuse me of that. That's a fraudulent field for most people. There's a handful of real such folks, but most of them aren't. They're a joke. They need to come back. Who's he, Forrest Gump, Mr. Producer? What's with this guy? Seriously. Go ahead.
Be that tradition of accountability. I know your network, the other television networks, so we're going to have a fight, but let's...
Bye-bye, bird brain. Or is it birdie? I don't remember. You're such a has-been. You actually were, or he never was. These people don't have a clue. Hopefully, the Trump folks, Republicans, conservatives, will be very successful, exploit their weaknesses, which mainly is they hate you and they hate the country. I'll be right back. Folks, have you ever thought about what charities and causes you give your hard-earned money to? Pure Talk, my cell phone company, supports veterans. As a veteran-led company, that's their passion project. And that's why Pure Talk has slashed $10 million in veteran debt. That's why they donate tens of thousands of dollars every month to help prevent veteran suicide. That's why they donate $50,000 to Micro Works, providing scholarships to veterans learning the trades after active duty. Now, isn't that a company you can get behind? Time to jump ship from these other three guys. There's a better option. Pure Talk gives you the same great coverage, America's most dependable 5G network, for half the cost. And you'll be supporting a company that is helping our vets. It's a win-win. Dial pound 250. Say keyword Mark Levin. You'll be connected to Pure Talk's U.S. call center. That's right. They invest in American jobs to better serve you. And remember, they're half the price of the big three. Go to puretalk.com/Levin today. That's puretalk.com/LEVIN. Switch to a company that invests in American jobs to better serve you. Again, go to puretalk.com/Levin. You'll get an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk, America's wireless company.
Mark Levin, the thunder on the right. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
Well, we have our friend, constitutional conservative Rick Scott, who actually won by a significant margin in Florida, and who is trying to win the leadership of the Republican Party in the Senate. And so I wanted Rick Scott to have an opportunity to talk about this. And Rick Scott, I was very disappointed to see Josh Hawley endorsing Cornyn. I mean, you know anything about that? What the hell caused that?
I have no idea. By the way, Mark, you're good luck. We got nearly 6 million votes. We won the Miami-Dade by 10 points. We won Osceola County, which is where it's majority Puerto Rican. We won there. We won in the county where Tampa is, the county where St. Petersburg is, the county where Jacksonville is. So you must have. You
won a landslide, Senator. You won in a landslide, and you were worried about losing. So obviously, you turned things around. I know our audience is extremely loyal. They love you, and I'm just thrilled because you're my senator, for God's sake.
Yeah. So here's where we are. As I talk to my colleagues, they know we have to do something different. They want to be treated as equals. They want to have an agenda. There's all the things that not happened in decades up there. They want to be part of a team. They know that Donald Trump got elected to get something done. They know I've got a great relationship with Trump, and they know I'm a business guy. Business guys get our stuff done. So I believe I'm going to win, be the next majority leader, and I'm going to help get Trump's agenda done with the help of a lot of great senators, but Mike Lee, Ron Johnson, and there's others that are going to be hell-bent on helping Trump get his agenda done.
You know, here's the thing, Senator Scott. You've been a successful governor for 8 years. Your opponents have not been governors. And you're more aligned with the Trump agenda, or you certainly have been over the years, than either of your opponents. And so the idea that you're sort of the odd man out is kind of ridiculous. So this is really another vote, another example of whether Republicans, in this case senators, are going to get behind somebody who is more representative of we the people, or somebody who's more representative of we the Washington establishment. Wouldn't you kind of put it that way?
Yeah. I mean, do you want the same old, or do you want a radical change? Trump got elected for radical change. Trump got elected because people are fed up with the path we're going down. So we've got to have somebody that is hell bent on balancing the budget, getting the Trump nominees through the Senate, fulfilling the Trump agenda, getting the tax cuts done, and we got to work with the House. I built a great working relationship with Mike Johnson, the Speaker, Steve Scalise, Tom Emmer, the members of the Freedom Caucus. Because guess what? If we're going to get Trump's agenda done, it's going to be somebody that is focused every day on how to get things done. What we do is we come up on Monday and we have a vote at 5:30. We don't even know what the vote's going to be about. And then we go home on Thursday and nobody has any idea what we were supposed to do that week. So maybe that's why we have $36 trillion of debt. That's why we have an open border. That's why we have high inflation. I stopped to get a sandwich today, and this young lady said to me, she said, they still call me the governor here. They said, Governor, I moved here because of you. I moved here like 8 years ago when you're the governor. I can't afford to live here anymore. She said, the inflation is just killing me. I've got 2 kids, and she said, I'm struggling every day. So this has got to change. And so we've got to have a new Senate that's going to focus on what do we do differently. Well, if you want to get rid of inflation, you balance the budget. We all balance our budgets. I balanced the budget for 8 years as governor. They had not balanced the budget in Florida for 20 years before I became governor. We can balance it at the federal level. It just takes us working together to get it done. But there's a lot of people there that their whole job is, I just want to get elected. And I don't want that. I want to get something done. I'm more interested in getting something done than getting elected.
Are these votes taken in secret, or are they taken openly in the caucus, or how does this work?
Mark, yeah, of course. I mean, how could they win? I mean, if it wasn't in secret. So, yeah, and they're going to rush it, too. So by bylaws, the vote's supposed to be next January, but they're going to rush it to, just so it's Wednesday. So the new senators don't have enough time to really get their feet under them and understand what they're voting on. But we are where we are. Mike Lee's going to host a meeting next Tuesday night, and hope all of us. I'm showing up and say, hey, this is what I want to get done. This is how I do it. I built the largest hospital company. I built a variety of manufacturing companies. I did it by having a very specific purpose, building a great team, having a great business plan, and then measure the living daylights out of results. That's how we're going to get the Trump agenda done. That's how we're going to get the Trump nominees done. That's how we're going to get a balanced budget. That's how we're going to cut taxes. So that's what we need, and that's what I'm going to offer. And when I talk to my colleagues, that's what they say they want. So I believe we're going to get it. But guess what? Everybody listen. Call your senator. Ask them what they're going to do.
Let me ask you something, Senator, not to put you on the spot, again, as a citizen of Florida. I've got two senators, you and Marco Rubio. We never hear from Marco Rubio here, to be perfectly honest with you. My question is, do you get any sense whether he's going to back one of these sort of McConnell types or back you, or he hasn't said, or who knows?
He's going to help me. I spoke with Marco today. He's been out there doing it. He's going to continue to support me. He knows the importance of getting something accomplished. So he's going to do everything he can to help me. He was very helpful in my election, and he's going to help make sure we get this through.
Excellent.
What the swamp wants to do is say, "Oh, there's not an election. Don't worry about it. We're just going to keep doing what we're doing." I'm not putting up with that. That's why I ran against McConnell 2 years ago. That's why he stepped down, because I was clear. We are going to have change.
Mm-hmm. Now, you stood up against one of the strongest people in the Washington ruling class, and that was McConnell. I'm trying to remember how many. You got a decent number of votes, right? What did you get, 10 votes, 12 votes?
I think first off, we had 16 votes to postpone them. They'd rushed the vote then, too, to postpone the vote so we could have have a real conversation. Because they rushed the vote to the day after I announced I was running against him. We got 11 votes. But what's happened since is I explained what was going on. There was only one Republican senator that had a vote. That was Mitch McConnell. Everybody else up there was stuck voting the way McConnell told them to vote. We had no idea what we were going to work on that week. We had no agenda for the conference, and that's wrong. We should say, so over this next 2 years, this is what we're going to get done, and it needs to tie in with exactly what Trump wants to get done. We need to have a plan to get his nominees confirmed. And we got to balance this budget. We are never going to get rid of this inflation until we balance the budget.
Senator,
Trump tax cuts are going to go away.
You're right. I'm especially worried about Cornyn, I have to tell you, because he reminds me a lot of McConnell. Sort of talks under his breath. He's establishment. He works the system. I mean, McConnell was responsible for the debacle on the border with that phony bill. Then he winds up voting against it. He spent a lot of time cutting deals with Schumer, undermining first Kevin McCarthy and now Mike Johnson and the conservatives in the House and the Senate. And I just feel these guys that have been hanging on and around McConnell and showed up standing behind him every time he was holding press conference and so forth, that his habits and his notion of what leadership is may have rubbed off on these guys, no?
Well, I've been very clear what I would do. I think if you're going to run to be the leader, you ought to be very clear how you're going to manage. Are you going to treat senators as equals? Are you going to badger them? Are you going to do what McConnell did by not helping guys like Ted Cruz and me to win our races, which is what he did with the super PAC money he raised from Republican donors? It's not McConnell's money.
And just to remind the audience, you won in a landslide, and Ted won in a landslide, despite his efforts really to undermine you.
Right. He didn't help Kerry Lake out in Arizona.
Oh, wow. That's right.
So because he doesn't, so the question is going to be, if you're going to run to be the leader, be clear. I've been very clear the way I would manage. I build businesses by being very clear. Hey, guys, this is what we're going to do. This is the type of company we're going to build. So this is the team we're going to build. This is our plan. This is how we're going to measure it. Be very, very clear. And so the first thing we ought to be doing is saying, okay, President Trump, you won. You have a mandate. How can we help you get your mandate accomplished? And then have a plan to make that happen. So if we don't, he'll get a few things done, but he's not going to get everything done he promised. That's not fair to the American people. He can't do it all on his own.
Mm-hmm. All right, Senator. When is the vote? Do we know?
Wednesday. So if you can reach out to your senators, whoever you believe would be the best partner for Donald Trump, That's who I think you should support. He won the presidency. So whoever you believe in, call your U.S. senator and say, hey, I'd like you, make sure you support this guy because I believe he'll be the biggest help to Donald Trump.
All right. Well, good luck to you, Senator Scott. We appreciate you.
All right. Thanks, Mark. Take care. Tell your family hi.
I will. You take care of yourself. I hear Rubio wants to be Secretary of State. Did you read that, Mr. Producer? It's out there. He's not comfortable being a senator. Immediately runs for president. Then he wants to be vice president. Then he wants to be a senator. It's an amazing thing. We'd love to talk to him if he wants to come on the program, but we're not going to keep reaching out to him. We have absolutely nothing against Marco Rubio. We really don't. Be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, have you ever thought about what charities and causes you give your hard-earned money to? Pure Talk, my cell phone company, supports veterans. As a veteran-led company, that's their passion project. And that's why Pure Talk has slashed $10 million in veteran debt. That's why they donate tens of thousands of dollars every month to help prevent veteran suicide. That's why they donate $50,000 to Micro Works, providing scholarships to veterans learning the trades after active duty. Now, isn't that a company you can get behind? Time to jump ship from these other three guys. There's a better option. Pure Talk gives you the same great coverage, America's most dependable 5G network, for half the cost. And you'll be supporting a company that is helping our vets. It's a win-win. Dial pound 250. Say keyword Mark Levin. You'll be connected to Pure Talk's U.S. call center. That's right. They invest in American jobs to better serve you. And remember, they're half the price of the big three. Go to puretalk.com/Levin today. That's puretalk.com/Levin. Switch to a company that invests in American jobs to better serve you. Again, go to puretalk.com/Levin. You'll get an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk, America's wireless company. So there's this long article in the Hollywood Reporter, which I almost never read, by Alex Weprin. It's titled Media's Crisis Point. It's losing relevance and scorned in Trump era. A reboot may be next. And they point to all this alternative media, which is fantastic, Mr. Producer. Fantastic. Except they miss conservative talk radio. It's the 800-pound gorilla. It's sitting right there in the middle of the living room. Remember election night? People driving in their cars and driving in their trucks, listening to the radio, listening to the radio as they drive home or they drive to work. Remember how we turned out that vote? People pulling into their parking lots at the precincts, hadn't really thought about voting and they voted. People listening over the dinner table. Okay, I got to come back. Let's go. People taking their kids one place or another, deciding to take their kids with them. There's no podcast that has that power, except mine, of course. But there's no podcast that is Marky on the spot that's tracking it this way. The real secret is that podcasts are done anytime during the day, usually early in the morning, and they run them at different times and so forth and so on. I love it. Don't get me wrong. But to pretend that conservative talk radio, AM and FM band on satellite, on streaming, on YouTube, it's ubiquitous, at least this show is ridiculous. Is ridiculous. This is alternative media. You're listening to it, as are podcasts, but not always. As are other forms of communication. We have fantastic websites that are out there, especially in the conservative world. But the notion that conservative talk radio is not an alternative source for tens of millions of people is preposterous. A guy by the name of John Avalon used to say this all the time, years and years ago, maybe 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. He wrote about how talk radio was dead. Hello, here I am. Hello, yellow, yellow. And there you are. This guy has no idea. None of them do. The Hollywood Reporter, they don't know anything about talk radio because they don't want to know. They don't want to know. And yet, President Trump and these other candidates would come on this show because they're smart, because they realized that for the left media, they want to pretend that talk radio is the reptile house at the zoo, when in fact, we're the lion room at the zoo. And so they come here to conservative talk radio because the Democrats have nothing like it, which is why Soros is trying to buy up our stations. They have nothing like it. They have podcasts. They have networks. They have cable. They have all that. We own them when it comes to radio. We own them when it comes to satellite radio. We own them when it comes to streaming and YouTube. We own them. I own them. This program. So media's crisis point. It's losing relevance and scorned in Trump era. A reboot may be next. Alex Whippern doesn't even know about the existence of talk radio. You know, Rush used to laugh about this because they said, he's dead, the industry's dead. I mean, I've been doing this for over 20 years. He had done it for God knows how long. And the idea that we're going away, that we're dead, is so stupid. But in this case, our program, our syndication, we have AM/FM, we have satellite, we have podcast, we have streaming, we have everything. We have airport radar, we have sonograms, we have everything. And you know it because you did this. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America! Mark Levin here. This is the last hour on the last day of the week. Victory Day, Victory Week, Victory Year. Can you imagine if you were on the Kamala Harris side? I mean, could have happened. But it didn't happen. You know why? Because of you. That's why. It didn't happen. Because of you. Because you said no. You put an end to it. So important what you accomplished. I know you realize this if you listen to this program. So very, very important what you accomplished here. I mean, it is a big deal. Julie Roginski, I don't believe I know who that is. They say she's a Democratic strategist. She was on the Constipated Newswork today. How many times were you told on TV and radio, how many times, that abortion's going to carry the day in the suburbs with the women? Over and over again. How many times were you told that the Democrats were knocking on 2,000 doors a minute? I think I heard one of the libs on Fox say that. 2,000 doors a minute? Were they knocking on the same door? Maybe they were knocking their heads on the door. I don't know what they were doing. But we were told we can't beat that, of course. You beat it. You turned out in massive numbers. We were told a lot of things that turned out to be a lie, that it was too close to call, and yet it was a massive landslide. That's what you were told. Anyway, Julie Roginski, Democratic strategist on the Constipated News Network, cut 16, go.
In retrospect, of course, there are signs, but I am very surprised for all the reasons that we talked about before the election. Look, ultimately, the Democratic Party needs to reckon with the fact that we don't know how to speak to voters very often, and those voters include women. And bashing women over the head on abortion did not seem to work, especially in states where abortion was on the ballot and they could vote to make it legal that way. We need to talk to women and men and meet voters where they're at and not lecture to them. I've said this before, and I'm doubling down on that.
Meet voters where they are, not at. But anyway, go ahead. She's done. It always bugs me when people end sentences and prepositions, but what do I know? Meeting voters where they're at, that's what we need to do. And she's right about that. You need to meet voters where they're at. Or at least if you want to lead them, be persuasive. Don't be rude. Don't be attacking them. Don't be putting them down. All across left-wing Democrat Party media, they are just trashing the hell out of people. Whether it's The View, whether it's CNN, whether it's MSNBC, they're just trashing the hell out of people. Oh, you must be a racist. Wait a minute, I'm black. Yeah, you're racist. You voted against yourself. And you Latinos, if you're deported, you deserve it. You voted for this. And by the way, you women, what the hell's wrong with you? I think the Democrat Party media is destroying the Democrat Party, per se. They highlight the Bernie Sanders types, the AOC types, the Tlaib types. They push them out there. That Nebish from Delaware, what's his name? Senator Coons, he's another moron. The one from Connecticut, the Nutmeg State, they promote this guy, Chris Murphy. He's a complete swine. And I can go on and on. It's like they pick the worst of the worst because they think they'll get ratings, and yet they don't get ratings. Karen Whoopi Goldberg, she's a Karen, that's actually her name. She was on The View yesterday, and she's destroyed that show 1,000 times. I want you to think about something. These grocery stores. There are big grocery store chains, there are medium-sized grocery store chains, and there are just grocery stores. We are a blessed people. Most nations of the face of the earth don't have grocery stores. People have baskets, and they go up back, and they hope they can pull up roots or something and find some food. I'm not kidding. When you go to our grocery stores, or even bigger, our supermarkets, you have more things there than any king or queen ever had. Ever had. 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago. Our middle class, our lower middle class, literally lives like kings and queens. You have access to meat, you have access to fowl and fish of every kind. You have access to 1,000 types of bread, baked goods, candy, healthy food, ethnic food, processed food, frozen food, refrigerated food, every kind of drink you can possibly imagine. Fresh vegetables from all over the country, all over the world. Fresh fruit from all over the country, all over the world. If you prefer, you can get it canned and it can last forever. 5 types of applesauce. 5 types of ketchup. Every condiment you can possibly think of. One aisle after another, after another, after another. Mankind has never seen anything like it. Nothing. And most of these grocery stores, they have a 3% profit margin. 3%. Many of their employees are union. They're paid well. They have health care benefits. They have pensions. Even those that aren't union, they pay their help well because they have to compete. Just think about what goes on at your neighborhood grocery store or these supermarkets. You go down the block and there they are, whatever you want, pretty much. Look at the hot dog section. Whoever knew there were 12 types of hot dogs? Kosher, a foot long, or this one, or that one, or a fat one, or whatever. Pigs in a blanket. 40 types of sliced turkey. You want it with honey, you want it spicy, you want it plain, it's incredible. I'm serious. You go to the delis. They must have 40, 50 types of meat you can pick from. Only in America. How did this happen? Well, it didn't just happen because you happen to walk into a store and there it is. It doesn't work that way. Food has to be grown or raised. And then there's 1,000 steps between that and the time it gets to your grocery store and on your plate. It's the truth. It is unbelievable if you think about it, how it's all packaged and prepared. You can use microwaves, you can use oven, you can eat stuff raw depending on what it is. It's incredible. These people aren't ripping you off. They're providing you with a service. They weren't ripping you off under Donald Trump. They're not ripping you off now. They're trying to make ends meet. We have restaurants that are going out of business that have been around forever, losing hundreds and hundreds of stores, some of them thousands. You think they want to go out of business? The production, processing, delivering of food to the end user, that's you and me, the people who eat it, has become enormously complex and expensive as a result of taxes, economic dislocation, regulations, and most of all, inflation. The government creates inflation. Last time I checked, farmers don't print money. Ranchers don't print money. Food processors, they don't print money. The assembly line workers that provide the packaging and put the food where it needs to be so it can go to the shelves, they're not ripping you off. The truckers who bring the food to these stores, they're not ripping you off. The stores aren't ripping you off. We know they have a very small margin. The employees there aren't ripping you off. So who's ripping you off? They are. The government. Inflation. Inflation cuts like a hot knife through butter. That's what it does. That's what it does. Now, why am I telling you all this? Because God knows how many Karen Whoopi Goldbergs are out there who are economic illiterates, but have big mouths nonetheless. And there she is, again, given a format on The View. The View. What a stupid show, The View. It ought to be called The Propagandists. And stupid ones at that. Cut 15, go.
Let's talk about the real stuff. Your pocketbook's bad, not because the Bidens did anything, not because the economy is bad.
Excuse me, they have the clapping seals, the sign goes on. Yay! Yay! As if you're in, communist China. Clap when we tell you to clap. It is because of the Bidens and the Harrises and the Democrats. She cast the tie-breaking vote for the Inflation Reduction Act. And this is also what they do in tyrannical regimes. They use names that are intended to utterly and completely mislead, that do the opposite of what they're doing. It was the Inflation Creation Act. You can't spend almost $3 trillion on top of all the pandemic money. That money is floating around all over the place. And because it's easy money in that sense, because it's being printed, it loses its value. And so it actually takes more of those pieces of paper to buy less. Go ahead.
Your grocery bills are what they are is because the folks that own the groceries are pigs.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. An imbecile. Complete imbecile. She won't be challenged. She would never come on this show. She won't debate these things. No. It's basically what we call circle jerk of yentas. Wouldn't you call it that, Mr. Producer? May I say that? Am I allowed to? Well, I did. That's The View. It's the ugly side of humanity in so many ways. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Welcome back, America. We're here with, actually, a very smart lawyer, Gene Hamilton, Vice President, General Counsel of America First Legal. Full disclosure, my wife works with these wonderful folks. Steve Miller is the head muckety-muck there, but Gene Hamilton is the glue that makes that place stick together. Gene, how are you, sir?
Mark, I am doing so tremendously tonight. It's been, what a week, and what a pleasure to be on with you tonight.
You're not kidding. God, if it had gone the other way, what a week, too, but in the wrong direction. You know, Gene, you and your folks have uncovered something that was quite devious, quite illegal, contemptible, and really, they wanted to pull one over the American people, and they wanted to do it fast. And you went in the court, and you said, wait a minute. And we're talking here about amnesty for illegal immigrants. I'd like you to walk through this case and the result of this case as a result of what your organization did.
Oh, I would love to do that. So let's take a step back for the listeners and explore kind of what the administration announced. So this past summer, they announced the creation of a program called Parole in Place. And of course, it sounds nice. They create this program for illegal aliens who are married to United States citizens. And instead of requiring them to leave the country, again, taking a step further back, the Immigration and Nationality Act prohibits aliens who come here illegally from adjusting their status or otherwise known as obtaining a green card inside the United States. Congress, this is common sense stuff. For decades, everyone recognized you do not want to create incentives for people to come here illegally and then hope that they can just stay long enough that somehow, some way, they will get amnestied in one fashion or another. And so this devious plan that they came up with was this plan called Parole in Place, which is to say, hey, there's this little provision, this little mouse hole in the INA that says that the Secretary of Homeland Security can temporarily, on a case-by-case basis, parole into the United States any alien for urgent humanitarian reasons or significant public benefit. That's the basic text that you're dealing with in this provision of the INA. And what they said is, hey, this provision allows us to amnesty spouses of U.S. citizens in the United States who came here illegally, and it allows us to do that because basically we say so. In fact, in the Federal Register notice creating this program, DHS used the phrase, "We have unfettered discretion to grant parole to anybody." And so they twisted this really kind of narrow provision of law. And so for context for the listeners, this provision of law is used for, say, for example, you have the spouse or the girlfriend of a cartel leader who's decided that she is going to snitch. She's going to come over. She's going to be an informant. And you got to get her in the country really quickly. And so you parole her into the United States. There's no time to get a visa. Or say there's a person who's having a medical emergency at the border, and you need to get the person in there. Obviously, that would be, on a case-by-case basis for a temporary time frame for an urgent humanitarian reason or a significant public benefit. So they said that this language allowed them to basically grant amnesty to everybody in the United States who is illegal, starting with this population. And of course, so what the numbers they put out, they say 500,000, 800,000, some people say 1 million of illegal aliens who would be amnestied and put on a pathway to a green card and citizenship. The danger here with this program was not just in that first batch, because the real danger here is that when they say they have unfettered discretion, they picked the criteria for this particular population out of thin air. Completely out of thin air. And so what would have happened if they had succeeded with this program was that this is their trial run. This was their pilot program. And if they were successful with this, I guarantee you their ultimate objective was to use this little narrow provision of law to grant a widespread administrative amnesty to every single illegal alien in the United States. So
unbelievable.
We partnering with the great Ken Paxton and a coalition of other states, fought a challenge in the Eastern District of Texas. And yesterday, after a lot of briefing, a lot of consolidated consideration of the issues on a very much expedited basis, the district court agreed with us. The district court agreed with the position advanced by America First Legal, the state of Texas, and this coalition of other states that said, no, DHS does not have the authority to do this. And specifically, DHS does not have the authority to, quote unquote, parole in place some illegal alien in the United States. Because when you go back to the statute, which good lawyers always do, you always go back to the statutory language and you say, the phrase says parole into the United States. That means that the alien has to be outside of the United States. You can't parole someone into the United States who's already here. And so this was a crushing defeat. It's a crushing defeat to a much larger conspiratorial plan that they had in place to grant amnesty to millions upon millions of illegal aliens who came here, especially during the last few years.
Very well explained. Bottom line is they didn't have the legal authority to grant amnesty to any of these people. They were going to twist the law and the time frame to do exactly that. And all of a sudden, 500,000, 1 million people who are here get amnesty on the pathway to citizenship. And if they got away with it, as you're pointing out, there'd be millions more. I mean, isn't this really the utter immorality and undemocratic nature of this administration, where they're always trying to twist things so they violate the law but pretend they're supporting the law. They violate the immigration laws and pretend they're securing the border. Isn't this really their plan, all this massive amnesty so they can get people in here, get them to vote, chain migration, and the next thing you know, the country's gone?
Absolutely, Mark. Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. Why else? Why else would you knowingly flood the United States with over 10 million illegal aliens in just 3.5 years?
I want to hold you over. We're going to hold you over, Gene, so you don't have to rush. Gene Hamilton and his folks over there at America First Legal with Steve Miller and everybody else. And again, full disclosure, my wife works with these great lawyers, and she's a great lawyer. She's better than I am. They're making a difference in this country. We'll be right back.
mayhem, the conscience of conservatism. Call Mark now at 877-381-3811.
We're here with Gene Hamilton. He's Vice President and General Counsel of America First Legal. And by the way, if you want to find out what they're doing, and they're doing a lot, you go to aflegal.org, aflegal.org. Now, as a consequence of this ruling by this federal court in Texas, Gene Hamilton, has this put an end to the Biden administration's effort to do massive amnesty before they leave office by twisting existing law and going through the back door?
I would say the answer to that question is absolutely yes. I would never put it past them to try to do something else, to try to twist some other provision of law and do something that is going to try to shield millions of additional people from enforcement of our laws. In one of the ways, I can think of about 3 different provisions of law that they might try to twist to try to do this. But this was number one. This was the number one thing that they were going to try to do. And, again, you think of how diabolical this is. You intentionally open the border. You flood the zone. You overload the country with so many people from across the globe. And then to think that you're going to be able to, on the backside, whether it's 6 months, whether it's a year, whether they got a second term, to be able to then grant amnesty to all of these people and allow them to stay here forever in perpetuity, to turn them into voters, to get folks on the ballots, all kinds of things. It should be alarming to every American citizen, and so we are immensely proud of the team's efforts at America First Legal, the great lawyers that we worked with the Texas Attorney General's office, the Idaho Attorney General's office, a coalition of, again, willing and courageous lawyers from across the country who are willing to stand up and say, no, Biden-Harris administration, no, not today.
And can't we assume they're doing this, or not exactly this, but things like this throughout the government? I hear over at the EPA, they're trying to ram through as many regulations as possible. In other words, these people aren't interested in elections and mandates and what the voters think or anything else. They're trying to impose their will on us all across the ubiquity of the government, aren't they?
Of course, absolutely. Not only are they trying to impose their will on the people, they're using the elite technocratic class, the expert class, who think that they know better than the average American. They think that they know better than the people who are out there working and paying the taxes to fund these jobs. They think that they know what is best for this country, whether they voted for it or they didn't. They don't care. Their job, they think, is to impose their will, their ideological agenda on the American people every day. And if you don't like it, of course, one of the other things that we've seen and witnessed and exposed, at least here at America First Legal, and that we're fighting, is that they try to censor dissent. And so over the next few months, it's going to be very, very interesting to see what this administration tries to sneak across, what illegal programs they try to get across before the clock runs out, and what they're willing to do in the sunshine and what they're willing to do behind closed doors. It's really going to be a fascinating few months for the American people.
Now, how did you find out that they were pulling this stunt with trying to get hundreds of thousands, if not a million, illegal aliens amnesty?
Yeah, so they announced some of these programs, and they announced when they create these immigration programs, they always announce them with kind of benign names or humanitarian sounding names to hide the ball of what's really at issue. And with this one, they announced this kind of rollout of this program. But when you look at the mechanics and you look at the law, and again, to all the people on listening tonight, whether you're a lawyer or you're not, the lawyer's first obligation in advising any client, in looking at assessing at any situation, is to look at the laws that Congress passed. You read the words. The words mean something. And so you have to go back and look at those words, and you have to say, is this a program that is authorized by Congress? And if it's not, then gosh darn it, the government doesn't have any ability to act. They have no power under this constitutional system that we have. And so we identified the big kind of threat that was here. I've spent a lot of my career in the immigration field. I know what they're up to. And so we partnered with some, again, these great states, and it's now been stopped. The federal judge declared you have no authority to do this. They can't get around declaratory judgment from a federal judge.
If people want to learn more about your group, what you're doing, they want to support you and help you, where do they go?
Well, absolutely. aflegal.org is our website. You can also follow us on X, which is our handle is America1ST Legal. So it looks like America First Legal. We're all over X. We love it. We love working on all of these critical issues and trying to advance the American people's interests every day.
All right, and you're doing a great job by everything I see and hear. That's Glenn Hamilton, Vice President, General Counsel of America First Legal. Gene Hamilton. Why is Glenn in my head? Why am I thinking of Glenn Beck right now, Gene? Can you tell me that? I don't know why. Gene Hamilton.
I probably.
Thank you, brother.
You,
God bless you.
It.
You too. Keep up the great work. He's really good. Now, my wife's impressed by him. She's not impressed by a lot of people. I don't even know if she's impressed by me. No, I'm just kidding. But she brags on Gene Hamilton, how sharp he is and how earnest he is and how hardworking he is. All the people over there at aflegal.org. We have our own great group, Landmark Legal Foundation. There are others out there too, but I give credit where credit is due. Credit where credit is due. We're going to take a little bit of an early break. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
One of the things I'm going to talk about tomorrow night on Life, Liberty, and Levin, 8 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern, Sunday. Have you set your recorders or your DVRs, your smart TVs, whatever it is? Watch us live, but always set it just in case. You never know. All of a sudden, maybe one of you want to go out to dinner with your wife or your husband, or something comes up. Set it so you can have it. It's going to be a killer show Saturday and Sunday. Saturday, Life, Liberty, and Levin. It's me. It's Don Jr. It's Ben Domenech. Sunday, it's me, General Jack Keane, Brent Bozell. Folks, there's a reason why it's the number one show, Saturday and Sunday prime time at night on cable, where we crush MSNBC and CNN combined. Because of you folks in radio. And I work very hard at it because I don't want to disappoint you. You got plenty of things to do. And so if I'm going to take time out of your life, I want to make it worthwhile. One of the things I'm going to talk about tomorrow night, you have the law professors and you have the former federal prosecutors. I like them all. But sometimes they're not exactly right about things, and I try and set it straight. What are they going to do about this Manhattan case against Donald Trump? It's not a federal case per se. Wasn't brought by a federal prosecutor. There's not a federal judge. And yet there's still a sentencing thing lined up, and he was still convicted of 34 counts in a Stalinist court. What can you do about that? I heard one expert say today, I don't know, that's a tough question. I'm going to answer that definitively, among many, many other things. So I hope you'll check it out tomorrow night, Saturday night, Life, Liberty, and Levin, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Please set your DVR or your smart TV or however you record it, as well as watch it live if you would. Same with Sunday. Just a great program, and 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Honestly, you should set your DVR or whatever recorder you use just to record it automatically, 8 p.m. Saturday and Sunday night. That's just my opinion. Do as you wish. Just my opinion. Do as you wish. Now, the House Judiciary Committee did something very bright. They put Jack Smith and the whole Department of Justice on notice today and said, preserve all your records related to these prosecutions. It's very important. It's very important, as I will discuss tomorrow night as well, that the Trump Justice Department, as well as the Republican House Judiciary Committee and Senate Judiciary Committee, now that they have the Senate, investigate how these cases were brought against Donald Trump, how they were brought in violation of the Department of Justice's long-standing policy and rules that you don't bring cases that might influence an election, particularly a presidential election, who are the decision makers, and all the rest of it, because we have to make sure this never happens again, or it's going to be a disastrous precedent. So this needs to be investigated and needs to be dealt with, and people need to be exposed, not for recrimination purposes, but for justice purposes. It's very, very important. I talked earlier. The Washington Post reveals EPA employees are already planning to fight Trump. You see, they have 2.5 million strong bureaucrats, not all, but the vast majority of whom view their purpose as running this country and running your lives. And so they're going to try and sabotage and derail the Trump agenda. There's no question about this, ladies and gentlemen. That's what they're going to try and do. No question about it at all. And it's not just the EPA. They're going to do it. The whole food chain, the agriculture department. They'll try and do it with energy. They'll try and do it with education, whatever they can do. And I read a piece not long ago that I shared with you that there's all kinds of executive orders and rules ready to go should Biden lose. Well, they lost. And that's what they're going to do. They lost, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to put in place all these rules, all these regulations, executive orders to try and make permanent what they couldn't achieve at the ballot box. You don't believe in democracy or republicanism or the rule of law or the Constitution. These are autocrats. These are authoritarians. Look at them on TV. Autocrats, authoritarians attacking you and me, we the people. They're no damn good. That's the truth. All right, ladies and gentlemen, every single Friday night, in honor of you, America, here we go. right, folks, don't forget Life, Liberty, and Levin, Saturday and Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern. I hope you'll watch it live, but definitely record it regardless, just in case, all right? What a great week. You should be walking around with a big smile ear to ear. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers, the men and women in Ukraine, our brothers and sisters in Israel. We have your back. Good night, Spritey and Griffey and Pepsi. Good night, Smokey and Zelda. Good night, Gigi and Indy and Patton and Rory. Good night, little Barney and Marty. Good night, Dad and Mom and Leo and Joe. We did it. We did it. And good night, everybody else. We miss you all. And you, the great American people, thank you. Be proud of what you've done. Let's meet again tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern on Fox, Life, Liberty, and Levin. God bless you.